So I don't usually do these. Most of my reviews or discussions, whatever you want to call it, that I do here are really more about something new that is in theaters or something that I've just received on disc to review or something like that. Stuff that's like fresh to the marketplace, even if the content isn't. But I went to see GoldenEye for the first time on the big screen since it came out 30 years ago. So here's one of those YouTube videos or wherever you see this where it's like GoldenEye 30th anniversary, still good, and I'll pose now for what the still will be. So I hate those, by the way. I consciously avoid that because it's I don't know, it's a thing. Anyway, as you may tell, this is going to be a very casual chat. I am a huge James Bond fan. I became a Bond fan. Well, I mean, I went. One of the first memories I have of going to the drive-in when I was a kid, which became very formative for me, if you know me now, was going to see Moonraker with my father and my uncle at the Ascutney Drive-In. It might have not been called that. It was a drive-in in Ascutney, Vermont. That was just over the river from where I lived for the first many years of my life, and it was amazing. I'd never seen anything like that before. It was Moonraker and The Great Train Robbery, the Michael Crichton Great Train Robbery that co-starred Sean Connery. So I thought that was kind of cool that two Bonds for the price of one, sort of. So I saw Moonraker in the theater. I saw For Your Eyes Only in the theater, which now stands as my favorite Bond film for multiple reasons. And I think I saw them pretty much all, with a couple of exceptions for reasons I don't understand. Up until recently, I've loved them. And in junior high, I caught a screening of Goldfinger on ABC Sunday Night Movie, and it just threw gasoline on that kind of dull, glowing ember of my Bond fandom. And I was just like, oh my God, I need to see all these. And at that point, I had a VCR and used bookstores everywhere with old paperbacks that were cheap. So I rented all of the Bond films and I was watching them endlessly. And I was buying up all the old Ian Fleming novels and all the novelizations and all the merch. So I just became an insane Bond fan somewhere around seventh or eighth grade probably, and it's never really stopped since then. So I saw GoldenEye when it came out in the theater. At that point, I was in college. My friends were big Bond fans as well, and we hadn't seen a new Bond film for a while, which is kind of this, as I record this in 2025, that's kind of where we are again now, is it's going to be a long amount of time, a long stretch. It used to be basically every 2 years or every other year, there would be a new Bond film from 1962 onward, really. But we occasionally hit stretches where ownership changes, marketplace changes, actor changes, whatever, and you get a span. So the last Bond film we had at that point was in '89 with License to Kill, which at the time I loved very much because I think that was the first new Bond film I was able to see in the theater after that mania really kicked in for me. And that was the last Timothy Dalton film. So that was '89. It wasn't until '95 that we got this Pierce Brosnan GoldenEye, and I was really dubious when it came out because Pierce Brosnan was that TV guy. He was that skinny TV guy. He was that Remington Steele guy, which was more or less a Bond character, and he was or a Bond air about that character. And we had he had been in, the last thing I saw Pierce Brosnan in at that point was Mrs. Doubtfire, and I remember thinking, this guy is Bond. This is a bad choice. I was wrong, by the way. So some friends and I, we were in college. We drove hours to get to a really good movie theater because there weren't any where we lived at the time. We wanted to see this huge and a modern multiplex screen. The place was sold out, packed, huge theater, several hundred seats in the theater, which for a multiplex at that time was really good. Gigantic screen. And I'm going to give you a little my GoldenEye history. So everybody is pumped. The lights go down. This is the days before the digital 30-minute pre-show of ads. Everybody cheers. Something comes up and it's like, wait, no, I'm sorry. It was the gun barrel logo comes across the screen. Everybody loses their mind, starts cheering. And then it stops and there's an orangutan in the middle of it. It was a fake out trailer for Dunstan Checks In that was made to play with GoldenEye, and everybody started booing because they're like, we want the new Bond movie. We've been waiting so much. Again, in 95, the internet was not what it is now, and there weren't endless leaks and news stories and photos and clips and all that stuff. It was just, there was a TV ad, there was a trailer, and we were just psyched for this movie. So we then sit through a couple more trailers, and then another thing comes up and it's titles on the screen. And this is not exact wording, but it was like, get ready. Now is the time. And we're like, oh, here we go. Here's the intro to the film. And then it was a Whitney Houston music video for Waiting to Exhale, the theme song to Waiting to Exhale. it was the full song. And everybody just started. I thought people were going to tear the screen apart. Everybody there was like, we do not want Whitney Houston right now. We want the new Bond film. So eventually it started, that opening title sequence. I'm now kind of segging into actually talking about GoldenEye. I got to see this at my local Alamo Draft House like last week as I record this. And I was just like, in the theater where I work, Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, all 35, all retro. We did run GoldenEye recently. We did GoldenEye on 35, followed by a Nintendo 64 GoldenEye 007 video game tournament on the big screen. I was unable to stay for that, unfortunately, so I was very excited to get to see this cozily at a local theater on the big screen and see GoldenEye for the first time on the big screen in 30-something years. Now, I had owned it on Laserdisc, which was a really great Laserdisc, and watched it a ton of times. Got the DVD, watched it a lot, so I've owned it in every format. I think I owned it on tape before the Laserdisc. And but I really have not watched it since, let's say, maybe 97. So it's been a while. And boy, was it great. GoldenEye holds up. That opening title sequence where they hold off a little before you see him, which is kind of a common trend in the Bond films, or it used to be when they were going to present a new Bond character. You have 006 and 007 in the behind enemy lines and what they do and how he escapes, and it's just great. Kick-ass theme song by Tina Turner, written by Bono and The Edge. You've got that new style, more modern contemporary style of opening title sequence that pays tribute to the styling of Maurice Binder, but brings it into the modern day and takes it in another direction. So much like the theme song and the film itself, it feels like it is the logical evolution of the Bond film series without being so new and so hip that it instantly dates it and makes it not good, which has happened multiple times over the years in the Bond series. It felt in line with what it should be. Back to basics Bond. It was really great. Timothy Dalton. Pierce Brosnan is great as Bond from the opening moments. He is so on point and serious and deadly, still has that wink and the charm, still has a way with the ladies, but when he is down to business, he is down to business, and you believe it in this film. Effects are great because it was mostly pre-CGI, so still practical effects. So yes, even if that plane flying over the exploding bad guy's lair is a model, it looks like it's actually there. The pyrotechnics, amazing. Stunts, amazing. The score, we'll get back to the score. The cast, amazing. The idea that you cast a female M works perfectly, because you always have to have that friction between Bond and M in these films. And over time, in the original series, it became almost like a father-son relationship, which was cool. But if you're starting, not rebooting, which is a word and a concept that makes me want to hurl, if you're taking the series forward and you still want to retain or bring back that slight tension, you have Judi Dench as M, where she is more of a numbers person, more of an analyst. He is a more in the field, hands-on, deadly person. He is a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War, as she says in that film. And this is a film where he either comes to terms with that or embraces that, or maybe both a little bit. And it just works great. You have Desmond Llewellyn as Q for, I think, the second to the last time. I think. I know he bows out in the film and sort of hands it off to John Cleese as Q, which was also, Cleese was great as Q in the series. So Desmond Llewellyn is there, pretty clearly reading from cue cards, unfortunately. I noticed, you might not notice it on the small screen, but on the big screen, it was very clear that that's what was happening. But he was great. Nice to see him again on the big screen. Bringing back a character from the earlier films in the MI5 branch, whose name is escaping me at the moment, but that was really cool. The villain, who I will not... I believe in spoiler protection. There are always going to be people who have never seen a film. Some people are like, what are you talking about? It's 80 years old, this film. This film's 50 years old. Yeah, but not everybody has seen it. There's always going to be somebody new who hasn't seen the film. So I'm not going to reveal the plot of the film is evil general and his female henchmen trash a Russian spy defense satellite system outpost and steal this ultimate weapon that basically allows satellites in space that are there and not 100% known to the non-Russian world to shoot a powerful laser from space and just blow things up, or create an EMP that just knocks out systems and causes chaos, and that's the threat that Bond has to stop before that gets utilized elsewhere around the world. And so he's after Oromov, the general, and his henchwoman Xenia Onatop, portrayed by Famke Janssen, who is amazing in this movie. She is great. She is alluring and deadly, and the screen presence, you can't look at anybody else when she's on screen. She's really good in this film. There are great car chases in this film, dirt bike chases. The action sequence featuring a tank in St. Petersburg had me cackling with glee. Like, I was just happy. It was a great action sequence, the likes of which you very rarely see, that mixes in comedic stuff and destruction of property and things that you didn't realize could be done with certain kinds of vehicles. It's just excellent. And the score kicks in at the right time, and the Bond theme kicks in at the right time, and it's just movie magic, folks. Let me tell you, GoldenEye works. This movie works better than some others. And I'm a huge Bond fan, but certain Bond films that try to be really hip and contemporary and now become the ones that date the fastest and are the least rewatchable in the shortest amount of time, unfortunately. The music score by Eric Serra. Eric Serra was the composer of a lot of things. I knew him from the original La Femme Nikita, Luc Besson film soundtrack. And he does good work, but in this film, it's a little too hazy, synthy. The end theme is a crime against the Bond series, because you want a really cool, you just had an amazing experience, and the film ends with a bang, as a lot of them do in one way or another, or sometimes more than one way. And you want like a really kick-ass, uplifting, you want the Bond theme to kick in and fill the speakers of that theater, and you want to go out walking on air, vicariously feeling like a super secret agent. And it's this wistful, the experience of loving you, soulful, slow ballad that most of the credits roll over. And it's just like, that was a dud, unfortunately, but it would have been cool to just bring the Tina Turner song back again, like they did at the end of Goldfinger. And that is the thing too, is at some point, for the most part, it's probably kind of starting with GoldenEye or later, the Bond themes, they all were just kind of riffing on Goldfinger. We're going to have a brassy female vocalist and a lot of brass and stings going on, and they all kind of feel the same. Some haven't. Some have been different. Madonna's theme didn't do that, and the one that Jack White did didn't do that, but a lot of them do, and I'm always just like, that I get it. It's a classy style, but they don't always have to sound like Goldfinger or Thunderball over and over again. So I'm rambling, but it's a movie I love, and it was so nice to go back. Some things do not hold up when you see them so many decades later. Some things, and it could be that I have this built-in love for this movie, and I know the lines, and I know every nuance because I watched it so many times at home when I got it. But it was one of those things where it felt fresh on the big screen. It felt like vibrant and vital on the big screen. You have great character actors in this. You have Joe Don Baker as Bond's CIA connection in this film. Not Felix Leiter, but a different guy. Light in tone, but you knew he could take care of business if he needed to. You have Robbie Coltrane as a Russian gangster that Bond had wronged in the past. He's hilarious. You have a tiny role, comedic role with Minnie Driver. The one person that didn't work for me, and he's great, I like him a lot in just about everything else. First thing I ever saw him in, Alan Cumming is in this as the Russian Boris, the Russian programmer who he's a Russian programmer, but he's a cartoon. He's a comedy character in this. And much like J.W. Pepper in Live and Let Die and Man with the Golden Gun, he's a character that at the time was funny. I actually still enjoyed J.W. Pepper, but really is out of place in these movies and really turns him into a cartoon. So the Boris character in this, I found annoying this time and just really kind of yanked me out of the movie in the moments he's in. Luckily, he's not in it a ton. And his counterpart, Natalia, who's, I'm very sorry, I do not remember the actress's name, who is also really good in this. And I never really saw her in anything before or after, which unfortunately is the case for a lot of actresses in Bond films. Famke Janssen actually did a ton of stuff after this. of arguably higher caliber after this a lot of times. But yeah, the Boris character, the Alan Cumming character, was kind of the Eric Serra score, especially that end theme, were really the only demerits for me in watching this film 30 years later. So does GoldenEye hold up? I say yes, fantastically. The rest of the Pierce Brosnan series had its moments, and there are some that I quite like and one that I really don't. But GoldenEye kind of kicks ass 30 years later. So there it is. It is available on 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, Laserdisc if you hunt for it, 35 millimeter if you're very lucky, and streaming probably on Amazon. I guess probably no but Amazon at this point. GoldenEye.